Ladies and gentlemen, we're back after quite a bit of a break. I think the last one we did was August, and we're just approaching the end of October, going into November. It's because I am coordinating with the Canadian Country Music Association, going to do a series of interviews with a bunch of their nominees, and we're starting off with one of the Rising Star nominees for this year's CCMA Awards, Shawn Austin. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. So you just were recently nominated for the CCMA Rising
Yeah.
Star Award along with some other phenomenal nominees. What was that a feeling for you with you being so early in your career on the come up?
You know, it's always it always feels good to get that nod and to get some recognition that we're doing something right. And especially now being in this industry for a couple of years, the thing that I love most about the country music world, because it's kind of the only one I really know well, is that it's very much a tight knit family community. Um, and everyone's always kind of in each other's corners, even though we're competing. So when something like this comes up, it's kind of getting the nomination for me is you can't really beat that, because at the end of the day, everyone in this category I'm a buddy with, and um, it's just going to be a nice opportunity after all of this time to hang out with the extended music fam, and and just hang out at the show, and we'll see what comes of the actual awards, but it's amazing just having the nom.
No, and I completely agree. And congratulations also for that. That's a
Thank you.
massive accomplishment for any artist.
Thanks.
So that's something I really noticed about the Canadian country scene, especially because like the few people I've talked to and have interacted with, and just from doing research on this thing I'm working on with the CCMAs, it's amazing to see how each artist will champion each other in a way that I don't really see in any other genre. And I think it's kind of like that extended family thing that you just said.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, how is it working in country music? Because I feel as a songwriter myself, I kind of write in the more alternative world. How do you view, from your perspective, that the music translates to audiences? Because there's also something with country fans that I don't really see a lot of in other genres.
Honestly, I think it comes down to authenticity and integrity. I've seen a lot of people trying to be country, or try to fit in the country mold. But at the end of the day, you said it right. It comes down to the fan, and I think the fans really pick up on those that aren't authentic, those that maybe see that country is starting to kind of grow, especially in Canada, and they want to grab a piece of that growth. Um, but it doesn't always work out if it's not something that's kind of in your blood, and the way that you are as a person. Um, I don't know if it comes across the best. And I mean, I've heard it from fans before where they know really quickly if somebody's being fake or somebody's just trying to fit the mold. And it's 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 nice to kind of know, because we feel that when we do the live show too. Those are authentic fans. Those are people that are diehard country lovers, and that's what I consider myself first. Before being an artist, I just love music and I love country music, and that's kind of where my whole platform's on. And the fan, the country fan echoes that. So it's you got to be true to have a shot, I think.
So you touched on authenticity, and that's kind of like a central theme for a lot of these discussions I have and with a lot of other creatives in the music industry. And but I kind of want to touch on what built this kind of authentic base, because I went through and I listened to some of your material, and I can tell from the perspective it's written that you really poured your heart and soul into creating the music that you have. And I
Yeah,
fully commend you on that. And I definitely see
thank you.
why you are where you are and you're getting the success you have. Starting with your background, what kind of steered you into the genre of country music itself?
It's, and I get that question all the time, especially for me. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I'm from a city. So everyone's like, how do you become country? How does your world turn into the stereotypical country vibe? And my answer is simply that I grew up in a very musical household, and I certainly would call myself a mutt of music. I love it all. I listen to it all, but the backbone and the type of music I connect with the most has been country. And I don't know if that's because of, upbringing, the experiences that I've had in my life, or just the way that, I the singer songwriter in me writes stories and writes talks about experiences that I've had, and I try to focus. Like if I haven't written a song that I've cut, we try to pick songs that are things that I can connect with on a pretty deep level, so that when I'm singing it, hopefully people can understand that um, it's something that I've either lived or felt the same way about, and that's ultimately what I'm trying to get from the audience too, from the listeners. If they can connect to something that I'm saying, or if they can recognize that, it's the whole thing where we're all doing the same thing on this planet. We're all just trying to find our space, and relatively, we go through the same experiences. The details might be different, but the overall concept might be the same. So I think that's how country's built, is on that premise. And for it just so happened that this city boy has been a country guy at heart, and it's just nice to have an opportunity to find my place in the industry now.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing, I think, in the country genre. It's a genre of storytellers. It's a genre of just authentic people trying to express themselves. When you go to a place, when you're in a writing stage and you're recalling a certain event that may be more difficult than others to kind of deal with while you're writing, what are the things that you would do to help process that? Like, do you get any sort of, like, I don't want to use the word therapy, but I'll use the word therapy kind of when you're writing about like a bad experience or something more negative, and then when you put it out, there's almost kind of like a breath of relief in a way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is therapeutic. Therapeutic. It's cathartic. It's writing sessions for me, and I'm definitely one of those people that love the country style, right? Where it's a group, a 2-person, 3-person, 4-person write. If it's just me, I don't give anything a chance. Everything gets thrown out before it gets flushed out, and so that world worked really well for me. But I've been in rooms before where that's happened, where somebody brings an idea to the table, and as you start to explore it, either people will have other ideas on the topic that work really well about it, or it becomes a scenario where it's a very unique experience, and the room begins to get really vulnerable, and everyone just kind of writing rooms have more often than not turned out to be a really safe space where I think that's how you find your best stuff, by just being, and goes back to the authenticity part of it. If it's a true experience with real human emotion, with some really heavy details, I think you get the best songs out of that. And that's where the country listener responds to that, and I think it gives them an opportunity to connect. And then the human side comes out, because you've got 3 or 4 writers putting what they can into a song, and then you hope that the masses hear it and go, there's tens of thousands of us that feel the same way, or that have been through something similar. And that's the life of a song is amazing to me, because it never seems to end. And it's just always exciting to see how far a song can go, and the reach that it has. But it has to start with something real.
Yeah, absolutely. And watching when a song approaches a new listener, especially that first time someone hears a song, and when they connect with what you're trying to get at when you're creating the song, it keeps adding life and life and life to something, and expanding it into something that can be bigger than yourself in a way.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, when I don't know how many times I've written a track or been part of something where it's the song's not really going anywhere, or you finish it because it's just been a long 8-hour day, and you just think it's going to be one of the ones in the bottom of the pile that might not ever go anywhere. But then it starts to circulate, or you revisit it later, and then it gets twisted in one way, or somebody hears something that is that final catalyst, that final little piece of the song that makes it perfect. And then you go from that stage to recording. Things can change a lot in the recording process. But then it's that moment when you release a song into the world and you no longer have the ability to change anything anymore. That's where I mean, we all get nervous and we all get excited about it. But then when you see, you start to get the messages of people talking about particular lines or the way a song's sung, or they feel the emotion of it. And then you start to hear fans giving you their reasons or their experiences on why they connect with the track. That, for me, is the pinnacle of doing this job. Having that, creating those connections with other people over something that is a common theme. It changes the game, and it makes you, for me, it makes me want to keep doing it. I mean, it makes the live show everything for me, because then you're getting a little hands-on, face-to-face experience with people that maybe have those same connections, and it causes you to keep pushing the bar as far as you can go, and seeing how deeply you can dive into yourself as a human, and how you can get it on paper and then get it to the world. So it's fun watching songs, the lifespan of a song, and I've never not been surprised on how songs evolve.
Yeah, and you can tell that even in the song itself, because part of the kind of emotional culture of the song kind of relates to the process of it being built, whether it be the experience that you laid on or the actual process of writing it. And you touched on live shows, and I kind of wanted to spin it over to live shows, because we're starting to come out of two-ish year, almost full 2 years period of not really a lot of live shows or very limited live shows. How's it been in your neck of the woods out west?
It's getting better. And we had an opportunity to play at Calgary Stampede this year, and man, was that a breath of fresh air! Just being coming out of all this craziness, just being back on a real stage, seeing real faces without a mask. You know, I know the only reason we've got there is because, you know, everyone's done what they can to make it happen. But just feeling now that we're on that doorstep of really opening everything up, it's I think it's lifting spirits for everyone. Certainly is for us. And next year's shaping up to look pretty strong, kind of almost like we're back to normal. Seems like all the festivals are coming back. There's tour talk coming. There's I don't know. It feels like we're gonna. That I keep calling it a drug, and it's a bad way to put it. But when you get that one little hit that you haven't had in a long time, and you got to wait so much longer before your next one, you know, it was tough. But I think we're getting there.
Yeah, it's just like a little junkie hit, like everyone, like just that dopamine when you step on stage. Like
Yeah.
I played a sold out show back in August in Peterborough, and it was like sold out at the point of capacity. So I think it was like 50% or something like that, but still just seeing a room that people, what was the energy like taking the stage at the Stampede? Because I imagine just that, I know the Calgary crowds can go hard. So I imagine that was just, and when you started talking about the show, I literally saw your face light up like a kid at Christmas. So I have to ask about that
Absolutely.
experience.
I probably could have sang ABCs and the room would have gone nuts. You know, it was one of those things that I think just everyone kind of out of, I don't know, out of jail, out of isolation, right? You're now hanging out with a bunch of people. You're feeling their energy. You're having drinks with friends again. You know, the Stampede food is untouchable. It's just that whole experience of festivals and of live music and of just partying, just having a good time that we just didn't have the chance to do for so long. So now that was it was a flood of emotion and a flood of energy, probably more so than an average person normally would have. But it was, you know, just like I said, I looked at it as the kickoff for getting out of what we went through. And it relit the fire for me to start pushing hard again as an artist and as a creative. We took a lot of the pandemic and focused on the business side of things, and that turned out to be great in a lot of ways. But as of what was that, July, it kind of fired me back up on the creative side. So the writing started happening again, and the trying to get the voice back on track, and focusing on just putting a good show together came back. And now it's opened up a bunch of doors, and I really cautiously optimistic the next year is going to be a fun one.
Yes, I can imagine. I kind of want to touch on the what has happened over the past couple of years, because for the music industry and artists, especially the past couple of years, have been just an up and down roller coaster of
Yeah.
inconsistency and just trying to figure out which way we're going. We're still kind of at the tail end of that right now. What were things that you and your camp were focusing on during that period?
Well, we early 2020 we made a decision to not put out any more music. We figured that with everything that was happening, um, it wasn't really I mean, not appropriate in some ways for what we were doing, and not. It was a rare opportunity that we were never going to have again to take a step back, look at everything we've done over the last, 4 years up to that, and kind of start to figure out how we were going to go forward. And that's where, the conversation started to happen with Big Loud down in the U.S., Big Loud Records, and my label at the time, Steelhead Music. We managed to get to a point where a merger made sense, and that's where Local Hay was created, my new record label, and it's a joint venture between Big Loud and Steelhead Music, and it was a complete game changer. I mean, I had to sit and keep that under wraps for a long time while the legal process and the business process of that was happening, but it offered me this. I had something to look forward to at the end of it. And now that we're kind of out, the cat's out of the bag, and we're getting back to normal. It's been a huge game changer having this team now, and it's just further making. I think it's going to make the future look brighter for a lot of ways, and I'm excited to see where things go and see how we're looking hopefully to start playing in the US a little more, and really start to solidify what we've done, and just see how far we can take it. But that was only able to happen because of the pandemic, and so that there was a lot of silver linings that came out of it for me. And now it's back to work, and let's see what we can do.
It's been really fascinating to kind of watch a bunch of different camps and a bunch of different artists and a bunch of different genres at different levels, and seeing what they did with the time that they had, because I think that's very smart, the decision your team made to kind of like take a step to reformat the business back end and work on building a team and building this plan, this yeah, just general plan that when you eventually roll it out, it's going to start lining up and hitting all the bells, and that's exactly what you're seeing now. And I'm also just curious, like for the live aspect of it, what do you think the culture is going to be like? Because we're going into this age of kind of like a golden age of live, where we have this
Yeah.
surplus of energy and kind of drive to go back out to shows and all this kind of stuff. What do you see that maintaining itself for an extended period of time, or do you think we're eventually going to kind of get over the hype and maybe go back to not really a passe, but kind of just a more, okay, this is back now, feels more like normal, as opposed to we are more thankful that this is back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a surge. I hope there's a surge in the immediate future. But I'd also like to see. I mean, I'd like it to, the baseline of it to be higher than it was before the pandemic. But I know that that's going to only happen if the industry as a whole can figure out how to um, elevate shows, elevate music, elevate the way people are getting um, content. I mean, we kind of all burnt out Instagram Live over the pandemic. We burnt out everything that we possibly could through technology. We burnt out. Everyone got tired every night. There was 15 lives going on, and you could only see, maybe one or two, and then you feel like you're missing out of the other stuff. But you were watching it through a screen. So now that we have this chance to get back on a stage and be live and be real again, I think that's what it's going to come down to, being important about being live, being real, and putting on a show that is memorable and isn't just like, okay, well, it feels like 2019. It needs to feel like something's changed. It needs to feel like the musicians, the music as a whole have kind of gone, okay, we're never taking what we did for granted again. No off nights, no throwing in the, just going through the motions and throwing the towel halfway through. Like it's, I mean, I'm young in this game for 5 years now as a signed artist. So compared to some of the longtime guys, it's probably going to be different. But I'm never going to. It's going to be 100%, 110% energy all the time. Otherwise, it won't be the golden age of music, I don't think. But that's from what I'm feeling, from what I'm hearing. That seems to be a common trend that everyone understands that, and that makes it exciting in itself too, because now everyone's pushing harder and everyone wants to reestablish their position and push to new heights, and trying to figure out a way to make it seem like 2022 onward is, the greatest time of music that's ever been. So I know that's a bold statement, but we're going to try and do it.
I don't think it's that bold of a statement, because I can see where it's coming from. The perspective I'm kind of looking at it at is we had this period where a bunch of artists had time to write, to work on their craft, to enhance their marketing, come up with new ways to reach new audiences, whether it be on different platforms or different strategies. Everyone wore out the Instagram live. That's why I started laughing, because there was one every single day, and just it's the same thing, and just you need that change up. And the thing I'm curious about now is, because I fully agree that we're going to have a good amount of artists look at what happened, have that appreciation for what we lost and we don't want to lose again, and then in a way I think it's going to make people hungrier, and especially those young artists coming up, hungry to try and make a statement in this new age, because it's been so long. And like at the end of the day, people just want to be entertained. So there's these audiences that are starved for good shows and good content. And I think we're going to see more of an amalgamation of both the live culture and the digital culture kind of come together, depending on certain show marketing plans or artist interaction. But I think we're going to see a golden age, but also probably one of the most interactive ages we've ever seen in music and media.
Yeah, and that's fun to me too. I mean, if there's a way to get closer to the fan and use the digital platforms in new creative ways where everybody is more accessible, then that's amazing. Like that's great. That's exactly what we should do. And if I'm going to bring up, this is just, it's been in my head all day. When you see Facebook changing their name to Meta, and what they want to do with their metaverse and everything, and having these immersive virtual experiences, I think that's incredible. I think that's a great way that will probably work its way into the music industry as well at some point. But you don't, in my head, I mean, maybe I'm just a purist or I like the old ways, but the live show has to be the root of it all. And even if somebody can put on a VR headset and see something, or experience it in a new way, and however digital goes, I mean, we still, musicians, you're a musician, you'll get this. We still love analog, and the real deal is still where music lies. That's the pure sounds. So the digital stuff and where and social media and all that, completely required and important, but I just don't want to see it getting lost, or getting the live show and getting the real trueness of music getting lost in that.
And that's kind of the detrifying thing about media, because and you nailed it right on the head there. At the end of the day, the success of an artist comes down to the material the artist is putting out, whether you are a visual artist, a written artist, a musical artist. Especially in the musical genre, the song is what drives everything. The song is the engine, or is the fuel that drives the engine of the artist and propels them forward in their career. Without good music and that authentic music that connects with those audiences, you're not going to have a long-lasting career. If your goal is to monetize something or get a quick number one and fade off, then there's multiple ways to do that, and it's very easy. But in order to build that long lasting, sustainable career, you have to have that authenticity factor. And that's the thing with social media. You need to be good at it, or at least pay someone that's good at it in order to
Yeah,
make it work.
yeah. It's been my biggest struggle is trying to figure out how to utilize social media in a way that, um, first off, I enjoy. Second off, where I don't feel like I'm just putting out content for the sake of putting out content. Um, and that's the struggle, is how do you, um, it's tough to wrap your head around the fact that, um, on a day-to-day basis, like, I don't think that people really give a damn about what I do, when I'm not on a stage or in a studio or writing, so but then when I kind of take a step back and go, well, yeah, people do, because I care what people do when they're not. And those people that I feel like I connect with, and those people that um, I admire, or I look up to, like, I look up to them because of the music and because of this and because of that. But now it's kind of fun to get an inside look to see what their day-to-day life is. And that's where I'm kind of like, okay, I got to be better at doing that. And I got to find a way that I got to get over my own head. That's it's I to me, I live a boring life, but maybe to somebody else I don't. So it's it's how do you show that properly? And that's where I think, I'm 32. The people that are coming up that are in their 20s, they're going to have this game locked. They're going to, if they're going to be great musicians, and they're going to know the social media game like the back of their hand. And I'm starting to be one of the old guys, I think, where I'm going to have to figure out ways to keep up with everything. But so that's where I go. It's all about the music, but I get that it's about the social side too. And so that's what my focus and what I'm going to try and learn better over the next year. But thank God for technology, because if we didn't have that, the last 2 years would have been a complete write off.
Well, and that was the beautiful thing about technology, because and I'm sure you know this as well, because you've been in the industry as long as you have. The industry has a habit of taking its time adjusting to the age of technology and to the age of socials and all this kind of stuff. And the pandemic kind of forced the industry to accelerate and look more into the digital scape and what technology is. And trust me, I have just as much issue as you on social media. It's not, you being 32 means absolutely nothing,
Yeah.
because no, because the issue with content especially is and it's like anything. If you have authenticity in your content, it's going to translate to an audience, and it's difficult to, especially when you do that digital content and platforms like TikTok and apps where people really want to understand you as a person, your personality. It is about kind of overcoming that step, but also just what makes sense for you and your brand. Because
Yeah.
if it does make sense for what you and your team are doing and what you already have planning, then it has to line up, or else there's no point.
Yeah. Well, I think about when, growing up, and all the bands that I looked up to and listened to, and there was always had to be a mystique around them, where you saw their music, you heard them, you saw them live, maybe, um, you read about them in a paper, but you just got the information about them when you happen to get it. It's now for us, how, the mystique has to go away. And that's, especially on the countryside, we go back to the, like you said, the authenticity topic, where now, you kind of have to show yourself as you are day to day. And how, if you're a goofball, if you're I don't know, more serious, more boring, more whatever you are as a person, it doesn't matter how, you just got to show that. And but like I said, then it opens up these opportunities where if you put out a song and you have that social media standpoint, that's what opens up the door to actually have those conversations with fans now about, um, where a song came from, why you're doing what you're doing. Um, and then it branches off, like, everyone and their dog watch Squid Games. And the number of conversations I had on socials about that was incredible. So I don't know, it's the whole world getting smaller thing. And just learning how to navigate that now, and coming out of 2 years of only that, maybe that's become the foundation of where life is going to go. And maybe the world's going to get smaller in that sense. And maybe, it's getting even more important to be at somebody's fingertips from a through a screen, at least. So that's my biggest thing right now. That I'm learning and trying to improve on, and I don't know if I'm getting a hold of it yet, but we're working on it.
Well, I think especially, are you coming down to Ontario for the CCMA weekend?
Oh yes, oh yes. I love London, number one. And after having this much time off, just just getting a chance to hang out with everyone and seeing everybody, and hopefully I get a corporate credit card for the bar tabs. We're gonna rack up because it's gonna be expensive, but that's what it's gonna be for me.
Oh, well, we definitely have to link up then during the
Yeah,
CCMA week because I will be there the entire weekend partying it up with all of y'all. Shawn, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to hop on this call with me and have this great little conversation. It was great getting to know you and more about your music and who you are as an artist. And I wish you the very best of luck on awards night and fingers crossed for you.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
All right. And thanks everybody for watching. There'll be another new episode soon. I don't know when, but soon. So in that case, take it easy. Peace.